Pauline Tully Cúignomid.
And I would like to acknowledge the people in the gallery also and pay tribute to the work they do in advocating for equality and inclusion. And I also thank the Social Democrats for bringing forward this motion and providing the opportunity to speak on the challenges that disabled people face with the additional cost of disability and the level of unmet need. The Indecon Cost of Disability report confirmed what was widely known, but frequently not acknowledged, namely that there is a significant additional cost of disability. And this is the extra spending a disabled person faces in dealing with day-to-day life that non-disabled people do not, in order to achieve the same standard of living. And the Cost of Disability report states that the average additional cost of disability for a person with a disability, depending on the severity, is anywhere from €8,700 to €12,300 per annum. Currently, the rate of poverty and social exclusion for disabled people in Ireland is one of the highest in the EU, and we also have the lowest employment rate of persons with disabilities in the EU. Why? Because disabled people fear the loss or severe reduction of their core payments and secondary benefits if they take up employment. The loss of the medical card is especially worrying for disabled people, and it's a disincentive to work and keeps disabled people in a poverty trap. One woman who came into my constituency office this week said she was told actually by the Department of Social Protection she would not lose her reduced disability payment if she returned to work for 1 or 2 days a week. Guess what? She lost it. She ended up receiving the same income from work as she lost in the social protection payment, but had the extra cost of transport to get to work. So there's no incentive to work. Disabled entrepreneurs and disabled artists are particularly discriminated against, as the entitlements to employ a disabled person are not afforded to the self-employed to employ themselves, and they deal with loss of payments on a continual basis. There needs to be a cost of disability payment immediately. A year ago, I and indeed others were calling for the publication of the capacity review, and we all welcomed it when published. And this identified the scale of unmet need, which is significant, and we were informed in April of 2022 that an action plan for the implementation was being finalised. We're 3 months on, no sign of this action plan. The United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities was ratified in this country in 2018, and this underpins the rights that individuals should expect to have realised, irrespective of the nature or complexity of their disability. However, children are not being supported, whether it's through primary care or the Children's Disability Network teams. There are insufficient number of places for children with additional needs in our schools, and in particular for autistic children. The right to live independently with the choice of where and who to live with is extremely important and underpinned within the UNCRPD. However, we know there are thousands of people still living in congregated settings, despite a government commitment to transfer all of those people into accommodation in the community. We have 1,300 people approximately under the age of 65 living in nursing homes, and the practice of putting people into nursing homes continues. In addition, there is an unquantifiable number of adults living with aged parents in the family home who have no choice but to remain there. Many of these adults are on social housing lists for maybe 10, 15 years, no prospect of being housed anytime soon. The parents are anxious from the time the child is born until they're in their 80s or 90s about what's going to happen to their son or daughter when they pass, because proper provision has not been made for the person to live independently and supported in their community, as is their wish and their right. I know of one woman whose daughter was in her 40s, she had complex needs, she'd been on the social housing list for years. When her mother became ill and ended up in hospital, she spent her time doing the lottery, hoping against hope that a win would mean she could be able to provide for her daughter after her day. I mean, suitable accommodation isn't provided when the disabled person is young, and instead it's left until it's an emergency situation and they're trying to deal with the grief of the loss of a parent, as well as coping with moving into an unfamiliar setting. There are a number of issues that require addressing immediately. One of them is workforce planning, as the level of recruitment and retention within disability services dismal. There is an urgent need for pay parity within Section 39 organisations. There has to be cross-departmental cooperation between departments, but particularly between local authorities and the Department of Housing with the Department of Health and the HSE, in order to provide suitable accommodation for disabled people who wish to live independently. Personal assistance service needs to be made statutory and properly funded. Now, I have limited time here to speak on these issues, and I just feel I'm not doing the people affected by these issues justice, because you could speak for hours on any one of them. But you know something, words are not important, it's action that is needed here. So just to say, as I finish up here and let my colleagues speak, that I fully support the motion, but we need action on these issues. Thank you.